Is tonight all about making sure another moment like that does not happen?
Absolutely. I mean, it's the biggest test for Biden since the debate. But, I mean, this might not be enough. Even a good performance tonight might not be enough, just given the body blows he suffered today. You just played that devastating footage, from the event on Ukraine. There were two reports in the New York Times that indicated his campaign is testing polling on Vice President Kamala Harris, who might be his replacement if he's replaced on the ballot, and that aides outside his inner circle are increasingly of the belief that he cannot beat Donald Trump and that there needs to be a reckoning with Joe Biden about stepping down as Democratic Party nominee. And you also had a cavalcade of Democratic lawmakers come out and say Biden needs to step aside, ignoring the advice of Nancy Pelosi to let the NATO summit play out. So this is all not stacking up in Joe Biden's direction. The question is he going to come off his insistence that he is staying in?
Mm-hmm. It seems he's got MSNBC on one shoulder and the New York Times on the other right now. And I think we all know which one he prefers at the moment. Putin, that's something, frankly, we all could have done. Mm-hmm. But we're not the president. We're not running for re-election. How damaging was this moment we just saw? Or are we just way over our skis on all this, parsing every word?
We should be parsing every word. And he knows, and his aides know, this campaign and the White House know, every word is being parsed for a reason. If he was a young man, there would be no questions right now about his mental acuity, in theory, as long as it's a healthy young man, right? Mm-hmm. But he is in his 80s, and he wants to be president until he's 86, with the nuclear codes, with national security calls in the middle of the night. He needs to make key decisions. And making these kinds of mistakes when he knows everyone is watching, what kind of mistakes could he be making when there is no public transparency and accountability?
Well, you talk about parsing every word, and it's not just the words of President Biden we've been parsing, but of other high-profile Democrats like Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi, who, as we know earlier this week, when talking on MSNBC, didn't full-throatedly endorse President Biden, instead suggesting it's just his decision that he has to make soon whether or not he's running. The thing is, Saleha, he already says he's made his decision. He's staying in the race. If someone like Nancy Pelosi is suggesting otherwise, is that actually what's most telling of all?
Absolutely. Speaking of parsing words, Nancy Pelosi is known for speaking very, very carefully and intentionally. She did not issue a full-throated endorsement of another Biden run. Mm-hmm. She could have. There's no shyness there from someone like her. She didn't. She instead said, hey, he needs to make his decision. And in that interview that she did on MSNBC, someone pointed out he's made his decision. He sent a letter on Monday morning, 2 pages to congressional Democrats saying he's made his decision. So she is kind of rolling it back, saying maybe your decision isn't made. That is really, really revealing.
We're not too used to seeing this president doing primetime news conferences, East Room, that so many other presidents considered normal. He's held the fewest number since Ronald Reagan. As we've been recently reminded. Jordan, give us the specifics on this. He is in a convention center a couple of blocks from where we're sitting, and it'll be no holds barred. How many reporters? Do we have a sense of questions format or length?
Well, Joe, if it's any like his past White House press conferences, it's going to be kind of a tightly controlled affair. Mm-hmm. They have a list of reporters.
They'll still have a list tonight.
I believe so. I mean, I haven't heard otherwise. So I believe there'll be a list of people that, the White House believes should be called on. He'll run through that list. The White House envisions it going 30 minutes. Well, we only saw this really get out of control, per se, one time, and that was after the 2022 midterms when he had that 90-minute marathon press conference.
That was wild.
And it was wild, and it was a scarring experience for a lot of people in that White House who have been determined to never let that happen again. Wow. And so that's why you've seen a lot of the 4 questions and out type of format. Mm-hmm. The problem is he's facing calls from Democrats to do more unscripted stuff. Get out there, tell us what's on your mind, make the case that you have the mental facilities to be the president. And so if he does this kind of tightly controlled thing, 4, 5, 6 questions in and out, is that really going to satisfy those concerns, or are we just checking a box here?
Well, we were speaking with Democratic Congressman Brad Sherman of California earlier this week, who suggested to Joe and I that he would like to see President Biden doing 90-minute, 9 p.m. news conferences with frequency, and that is what he ultimately thinks would prove.
I'm sure the communications and press officers would love that.
He's up to the job. But it's a question of who he has to prove things to, Saleha. On the one hand, yes, it's the voters that ultimately matter. Biden has been talking a lot about party elites who are trying to push him out, including those who are providing the funds for his campaign to continue. If the donors start to turn in a more material way, if even grassroots donations start to grow up, is the money dry up, rather? Is the money what ultimately will matter the most?
So far, we've seen Bloomberg reporting has pointed to the opposite. The money is not actually shifting Biden's thinking. The kind of stubbornness that a person needs to run for office again and again, as he has for half of his life, maybe more than half of his life, it is the same stubbornness that is keeping him in office. It's going to come down to the people that are closest to him to not veil the truth and to show him a mirror and show what he's really doing.
So you wonder if it's the cash or the path. We know that there was a closed-door conversation with union leaders, Sean Fain among them, very critical of the campaign without being able to show a provable path, a realistic path to victory here. And a memo went out from the campaign today that did not convince donors that they have one, Jordan.
That's right. There's been a lot of magical thinking with the Biden campaign. They've really tried to treat this as a run-of-the-mill political controversy, and they've issued this messaging that's really short on numbers, but is insisting that he still has a path to victory through the blue wall states, that this is not a seismic event in the campaign, that the race is still within a margin of error. Now, yes, we've seen a couple of public polls that have shown that, but most of the public polls have shown Donald Trump expanding his lead. And you need to show, if fellow Democrats, if you're the Biden campaign, there's a way to recover that margin. Right. And guess what? This is not a sex scandal. This is not a financial improprieties. This is age. It only goes in one direction. And so there's really no convincing anybody that Donald or Joe Biden's performance is really going to get better over the next few years.
Well, and on the idea of sex scandals and financial impropriety, it's worth noting we just got the news that Donald Trump has officially asked the judge in his New York hush money case, in which he was convicted on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records, to throw that out because of the Supreme Court ruling on immunity from last month. It strikes me that today, July 11th, we're talking about Biden's press conference. This was supposed to be the day in which Donald Trump got sentenced in that case. We haven't touched it at all, which begs the question, Jordan, how badly does Donald Trump need Joe Biden to stay in this race? Does he want to be running against anyone else?
Oh, very badly. They've tailored their entire strategy around Joe Biden and focusing on his age and fitness for office. Take a look at any Republican social media feed. It's just full of clips of Joe Biden doing the type of thing they did today at that meeting on Ukraine. And they're going to need to dramatically shift their messaging if anyone's put back in there. Kamala Harris, are starting to focus on her as someone who might be a replacement for Joe Biden. Their messaging, I mean, frankly, has been kind of racist. Like they're calling her a DEI hire. Is that going to go over well with the public? I mean, they
intentionally mispronouncing her name.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we have a lot of racial problems in this country. Maybe it will resonate with some people, but that's not necessarily the type of messaging that's going to win over those undecided voters who might not think that way and are going to be put off by that kind of blunt messaging from Donald Trump. And so they have a lot of thinking to do if it's someone other than Joe Biden.